Yeah, really fortunate at the end of the day. I really was. The first thing you get to do is touch Kurt Angle a couple of times, and then I got, like you said, Nikki Dinsmore and stuff. And beyond that, the ability to talk, I think, is what kept me there for almost 10 years. But back to that point of marks in the locker room. You walk in the locker room, there's William Regal, there's Dave Finlay, there's Chris Benoit, and then you look at yourself and you realize really quickly that, yeah, you are a mark and the marks are coming in, and these guys have a responsibility because they see it. They got to protect it. I wish I had known that sooner, because I had lost sight of a lot of things and I was so excited I would start talking as I can do. And it was an experience.
Talking in the locker room or outside the locker room to others, spreading things that were happening in the locker room?
No. Just in the locker room, just trying to fit in, trying to be one of the boys when I hadn't earned it there yet. And I think that's something that, it's a great lesson to learn, because then I was able, like Rip, Johnny was able to see what the guys were doing to you and said, hey man, come here. I was able to see when the next guy came in, chatty, pull him aside, because I didn't want whatever was going to happen. So, that's how you be good, and you spread goodness throughout the sport and extend it.
So did you have heat in the locker room with that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're not doing it right if you don't. I have to look at it that way.
Well, I hear stories about other people. I'm not sure I've heard like any horror stories, with you in them. So maybe I'm out of the loop, or maybe they just didn't get that bad and you just had some heat that wasn't talked about a whole lot.
I told my stories, and now looking back, being my age, and now I'm raising 2 little kids and stuff and moving on to a different part of my life, I can tell them with a smile, because you have to realize when things are happening to you that these are tools that you're going to need later on in life. You might not realize it then, but man, oh man, later on in life, you realize the only reason I can do this is because that happened then. Chris Benoit, one of the first guys, is to be like, yo, you got to shut up, man. You've got to shut up. And dressing out of the locker room and kind of taking my lumps verbally. But once we got in between the ropes and stuff, for the most part, no one really took too many shots, or at least tried. Now, I don't know if it was A, I'm from Johnny, they might think I'm a shooter or a hooker. B, I rolled with Kurt all the time. I loved doing that. But no one ever really did it in the ring. And to me, that's all. If my performances were for the match, that's fine. In the locker room, if no one's my friend, I'll change in the janitor's closet and I'll get through it. But that's what it pretty much was.
Yeah, it seems like that's been a story with several people, it seems like. So give us, you talked about being kind of a mark or whatever in the locker room. Kurt Angle's your first guy. I mean, what's that like, going out there with Kurt and just being able to work with him, wrestle him? I mean, give us some Kurt Angle feedback.
Yeah. So another great ism is tennis is a great game, but you'll never be better than the wall. A lot of guys go out and they try to be the best, be better. Man, you just be what's for the match. I'm also a believer I'm a faith guy, not a full-on thumper, but I believe that if something's going to be, it's going to be. Something just took over, man. Touching Kurt, touching some of these guys, when I use that term touching, getting in there with some of these guys, sometimes it's just magic, whether you want it to be or not. And then when you learn how to be magical, you can do that for someone else. So going in there with Kurt was just magic. It's Bruce Lee used to say, be like water. It was like water. It was everything I ever trained, everything I ever knew. I knew where to be. He would lead. It was just perfect.
So where did it go from there? Where did you go? Was that, I can't even remember. Was that to try to get a contract, or did they already say, did they use that deal?
So again, faith, the teaching thing happens. I'm hot in the news. I'm on the independents. I come in, I have a couple of good goes with Kurt. Kurt nods to Vince, kid's all right. And then John Laurinaitis gives me a contract July 12th. So I wrestled Kurt the second time, July 11th. It's amazing how you remember these things. July 12th. Hey, I'm going to sign you. Here you go. And, I'm still at a point where I call my dad. To me, that's what this was all ever about, was the bond I had with my dad over wrestling, baseball, boxing. And the ride began.
Big gold and a billfold, so swole that I can't get the shit closed. So I money fold and rubber band wrap. And when it